Hi everyone, it's Fiona from Nadaya Financial and it's Mortgage Monday. So here's the scenario. You've got your house on the market and you finally have a buyer. You have someone who is willing to pay what you believe it's worth, which is fantastic. The downside is you haven't found a property to purchase yourself. You haven't found the right home. And you don't want to rush these things because it is a decision of a lifetime to make to buy yourself a forever home or your dream home or your next home. So what do? You've got nowhere to stay in the meantime. So I've got 5 options that I'm going to talk about quickly today, just to give you some ideas of what you could do. So your house has been sold and you've got nowhere to live. So a few options. First of all, you could look for a short-term lease. You could rent for 6 weeks, get a short-term lease and see how you go. Now, just letting you know, there are not a lot of short-term leases available. So you can give that a go. And if the 6-month lease doesn't work, you can step it up to a 12-month lease. Now, if you found the property in the meantime, which you may have done in that time frame, then you may be able to break out of your lease if you give them notice, a month's notice. However, you may have to pay the rent until they find a tenant to replace you on that lease. So there are more conditions around that. So I do recommend speaking to the real estate agent more about the tenancy side of things, but that is an option, a 6-month lease or a 12-month lease. Second of all, what you can sometimes do is actually lease back your house. So you've sold your property and the vendor has been kind enough to let you stay in there and pay you rent and pay them rent until you found the property that you want. Now, it doesn't happen often. However, you never know unless you try. Ask the vendor. Maybe they're not in a hurry to get in the property and they're happy to receive some rent in the meantime. Third of all, this is a more expensive option. You can think about renting a furnished property and staying there in the meantime. So your property's been sold, you don't have anywhere to live, however, you found a property and there's going to be like a 2 or 3 week gap in between. You can stay in one of these. The thing about a furnished property, more often than not, they actually charge you a rate by day. So it's still an option. It's still something to consider. Another thing to consider is, so this is option 4, is to stay, if you're fortunate enough to have an investment property or even a holiday house, you can stay there in the meantime and just commute until you find the property that you want. It's not long term, but it is definitely an option. And lastly, what you could consider is, as most of my clients end up doing, is moving in with family. If you're lucky enough that your parents or whoever has a property big enough for you all to fit in, then it may be an option to consider living with them. Hopefully you all get along well, because that would make it a lot nicer. So you could live with family. So those options again. So this is what's happened. Your house has been sold, but you don't have somewhere to live. You can search for a short-term lease on the market and rent for a little while. You could rent from the person that's just bought your property. You can pay them rent until you find your property. Rent a furnished property, remembering they charge by the day. Stay in one of your investment properties or in a holiday house that you have. You may need to commute, but it may be worth it. And lastly, live with family until you found the property of your dreams. Remember, pre-approvals usually last only 3 months too, so you may need to renew that as well. If you'd like any further information on what I've discussed today, happy to have a chat. Feel free to leave a message below and have a great day.